So let's search for a word like bear, and it has multiple meanings. So if I go on first one, so it's saying it's a verb, carry the weight of, endure. And if I go back to see the second meaning, it should be an animal, a large heavy mammal that walks on the soles. That's great. Hello friends, I'm Aftab from Easy Approach, and in this video we are going to make dictionary application using block state management. The dictionary application will not be a local application. However, we will use some API service to get the result of the user search query or the user search word. So the API service that we are going to use in this application is actually a free service, and it's dictionary api.dev, and you can find the endpoint that you have to hit in order to search for a word. So we basically need to call this API, which is written here, api.dictionary and so on. So here you just have to replace the word that you want to search, and then you will get the response of all the words that matches your query. So basically we will receive a list of words. You can see this is a word. However, in this case there's just one word. However, you can receive more than one, and in this response you would have a lot of stuff that that you can use in your dictionary application. You have phonetics, how you have to pronunciate this, and you have meanings. And as you know, there could be several meanings of the same word. So basically we have a list of meanings. So for each meaning you have the part of speech of that meaning of that word specifically, and then you have the definition with example of the sentence. So basically you have all the stuff that you can use in your dictionary app. You also have the synonyms with the definitions, so you can also use this. So there are a lot of information, but we will use some information like the meaning of word and the part of speech and maybe the synonyms. So you can use whatever you want. So the main target in this video is basically using the block state management and calling the API, get the data from the repository, and see on this and show on the screen. So this will actually make us learn how to make a proper application with networking interaction using block state management. So as you can see, I'm starting this application from the very scratch. I haven't done a single line of code. I've just created this project, and so I have to do all the stuff from the scratch. So first of all, what I'm gonna show you what are the dependencies you need to have in your pub-spec so that you can complete this application. So let's open pub-spec.yaml file, and we need to have a couple of dependencies in this project to implement all the stuff that we have just discussed. So there are only two dependencies that we are going to use. The first one is Flutter_Bloc to implement the block pattern in the application, and the second dependency is HTTP package in order to make HTTP requests. We're definitely going to hit the API that we have just seen, the API dictionary and blah blah blah. So we definitely have to hit the API. So we are going to use HTTP package in order to make the GET request or the POST request, whatever the request type is. So these are the dependencies that we need to have in pub-spec.yaml file to complete this application. And make sure you hit the pub get in order to so that Flutter actually install all those dependencies that you have just added in your pub-spec.yaml file. Anyways, now the thing that we have to do secondly is we have to create a project structure. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create in the first folder that is screens. So that would have all the screens of the application. Because we are going to have 3 screens, the first screen will be the home screen on which the user can type the word he want to search, and the second screen would be the list of all the result, all the meanings, because you know we can have multiple result or multiple basically multiple result for a single word. So we need to show a sort of list, and then user can select one item and then he can go further in the detail page so that he can see the meaning, he can see how to pronunciate it and all that stuff. So we basically need to have 3 different screens in this application. So I'm gonna make 3 different packages or 3 different folders inside this screen. So the first one will be home, okay, and then the second one will be the list. Oh sorry, it should not be inside the home. Make sure you create it inside the screen. That's good. And the last one would be of detail. Okay, so let's okay, now the second thing, we are not going to create the dot file right now, but we will definitely create it. The second thing that we have to consider is for each screen we would have block, not for the whole for all the screens, but the screens that will require an explicit state, we need to have block for that screen. So here it is, and definitely we need to have a repository folder also that will have the repository file, because you know the flow is something like the UI communicates with the block, and then if block requires some additional data from the network, then block requests the repository to provide some data, and then repository make the HTTP request and it gets the data and it returns to the block, and then the block returns to the UI, and this is how it works. So we need to have the repository of the dictionary so that we can get the data of the search word. And another folder that we need to have is the service, like, or we know you know we have HTTP service. Okay, so I have made it inside the service in the screens, maybe. No, that's good. So we would have the HTTP service in order to make the HTTP request. So we will explicitly make a HTTP file in which we will make the GET request, and the repository would have the instance of the HTTP service, and then he will use the GET future that would be inside the service. So we will make all these stuff. Don't worry if you're not getting it. Now, the thing that we have missed is we need to have a model folder also, because it will contain the response model for the dictionary search word. So here it is, the model, and I think we have done with all the folders, the blog, repository, screen, service. Yeah, that's good. So now we will start from the very first thing, the home screen. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a home screen, a widget. So it will be definitely a dot file, and let's name it home_screen, and it would obviously have material.dot file imported, and then we are going to make it a status widget, since we are going to use blog as a state management. That's great. And we need to have a scaffold widget as a root widget. Okay, let me run this application. So you can see the application is running, and as expected it has the default screens. So what we can do, we can give the reference of the screen that we have made, because the default screen will be home screen in our case. So let's first get rid of this stateful widget of counter app, and let's give the reference of home screen over here. That's great. And what I'm gonna do, firstly, I'm gonna have a background color and there's a scaffold of blue gray with 900. Okay, if I refresh the app, so this is how it looks. And actually I have copied some code so that I don't have to do it from the scratch, because it's just a basic code and you can easily get it. So this is get dictionary from widget, which is the default widget in this screen. So you can see it has a column widget and it has some title, dictionary app, and some subtitle, and then it has a text field in which user can give his query, and then it has button. So very basic stuff. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm just gonna call this in the body so that you can see what it looks like. However, we will definitely going to have some logic, and based on the logic we will show the UI. So now we'll come back to the UI again, since we don't have the functionality, so we cannot render the UI dynamically. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna make the HTTP service class. So let's go inside the service and let's create a new file, and let's name it http_service. Okay, so it will be HTTP service class, and it would have a base URL variable. So the base URL would be, in our case, let's open the Google Chrome, and the base URL would be this. So it will be from, you can think from start to the entries. However, we are just going to make a single request. You don't need to explicitly have the base URL, but just to keep everything simple and clear. And then we would have a static future inside it, and that will return obviously the response, and it will be get request. And we would have endpoint in this as the parameter of this future. And in order to use the future that is useful for making get requests from the HTTP package, you first need to import http.dart file. And okay, so it's already there, and let's give the alias, because inside it we have some futures, and by giving the alias we can easily access. Okay, so for accessing the future, we need to first write HTTP, and then we have get request, and inside it will actually return us the http.response type object. Here it is, and then you can initialize it as it's a future, so we need to use await keyword, and here we have to specify the URL. Okay, since we are using await, we need to have the async keyword, so that's great. And for creating the URL instance, basically this is you have to provide URI instance. So for obtaining this, what we can do, you can use final URL equals to URI.parse, and inside it you first need to, this should be string, and you first need to pass the base URL, and then you need to pass the endpoint. That's great. And simply you can pass the URL inside it. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wrap this thing in try and catch block so that we can catch the exception if we get any. So in case we get exception, we can throw exception back to the callee method or the future. So we can just throw exception, throw E, and in case we didn't get any exception, we can simply return the response. That's it. Now before moving to repository that would have a feature that will actually get the search words from the API service, what I'm gonna do, I'm first gonna create a model response class for the response that will actually get from the API service. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use quicktype.io for generating the response. So what you can do, you can simply paste the whole response, the example response, and you can paste it inside quicktype.io, and you can give any name like word response, and then you can copy the whole code that's generated on the right side, and inside the model you can create a new class or new dot file actually, and you can give the name like word response. That's good. And you can paste the code over here. Now let's move to the repository, and we are going to create a new file in it, and it will be dictionary, or maybe we can say word repository. That's great. So we are going to make it word repository class, and then inside it we would have a feature that will return us the list of word response. And let's give it a name, get words from dictionary. So we have to import this word response, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna simply use the HTTP service class that we have made, and I'm gonna call the get request, and I have to pass here the endpoint. So to get the endpoint, what we can do, simply you can go to the API service page, and here is the endpoint that you have to call. So basically what we have to do, we have to replace this hello to the user search query. So we can accept the query, which will be string, and we can simply replace this hello to the query. That's good. And what we can do further, we can check if the response, sorry, we have to use here await also, since the get request is a future and we are using await, so we need to use async also. And simply we can check if the response or the status code is equals to 200, it means it's okay, we have got the response. Then what we can do, we will simply parse the response into the word response type object, and then we will simply return the response. So what we have, how to parse it. So we have word response from JSON. So let's call word response from JSON, and then here we have to pass the string response. So you can get you can use response.body, and this way you can parse it, and then you can simply return the result, which is actually the list of word response. And in case you get some error, simply you can return null. And what we can do further, we can wrap this whole thing in try and catch. And in case we get any exception, we can get few types of exception, like socket exception in case there's no internet connection. So in that case we will throw exception, throw E. We can also get the exception. The second one could be HTTP exception. Even though we are just throwing the exception, there is no point of making these individual exceptions or catching these as exception individually, in my case specifically. But obviously you can handle these according to your needs, and you can return the exception object based on the specific exception you are getting. So basically you can do whatever you want. So I'm just keeping it separate. And the third exception could be format exception, in case you make some format error or some format mistake in the endpoint or in the URL. So these are all the exceptions that you can get. So we are just throwing the exception. We are not doing anything fancy. So this is it from this word repository, and now we will make to the main important thing, which is block. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a block class inside this block package. So let's give it a name, because this block class will be used in only home screen, and we will get the response and we'll get all the data in the home screen, and then we can simply pass to the list and to the detail. So we are just making this specifically for home screen. So what I'm gonna do, we can give it a name home block, or I think we can make it dictionary block. And since we are not using block actually, because we are using qubit, which is simplified form of block, so it actually avoids the boilerplate code, or not exactly avoid the boilerplate, but it actually makes the block simple to use, because it handles the emission of new states pretty smooth and pretty easily, not like we use in case of block. We have to explicitly add new states into the stream of states. However, in the case of qubit, it's more simple, and also we don't have to explicitly have the events. We don't have to add the events into the block. We can just simply call the method inside the qubit, and this is how it triggers the new state. So obviously I would imagine that you would have a small understanding about block. So this will be dictionary qubit, and let's make it dictionary qubit, and you need to extend it with qubit. And here you have to specify the type of the qubit, or actually the type of the state which this dictionary qubit would have. As you know how block works, block accepts the events from the UI, and then that block process it according to the received event, and then it generates the new state accordingly. And the new state will be passed to the UI again, and then UI will re-render itself according to the new state. So this is how it works. So you have to specify the you have to specify the actually type of the states that it can actually return. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create the state file, or sorry, the state class first. So let's make a state. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say it dictionary states, or just dictionary state. And that's great. And what I'm gonna do, let's make it abstract class, since this is the base class for all the states that we would have. And we will now make different states that could be possibly in the application. So the first state that could be possibly there in the application, in case user has not searched any word yet. So we definitely have to show the form dictionary form widget in that case. So let's create a widget. Let's create a new state, no word searched. So this will be the case when there will be no word searched, and you should extend it with the dictionary state, as that's the base class for it. And since we don't have the application open yet, because I had to restart the application, there was some cache issue. So let's open the application again. And while it is opening the app, we can continue. The second state that could be possibly there in the application is when user has searched for the word and we are actually fetching, and it's in the progress actually. So in that case, it will be a loading state, and we have to show a sort of loader in case of this state. So let's create word searching state. So whenever this state will be released or returned from the qubit to the UI, so we obviously, in this case, we will render the loading stuff. So it will also extend the dictionary state. So if you have the knowledge of block, I think that you won't have any issue. But if you are having issue and you are not understanding really how block works and what are the states and what are the events, then you probably have to go to the block first, and you don't have to really go in the detail. You can just search for the very basic stuff, even though I have discussed in it already. But still, if you find it difficult, you can go for the specific basic details. So these are the two states that we could possibly have in the app when no word search. So in this case, we have to show this form, and when word searching, in this case, we have already made the API request, and we should show some progress indicator. So this is the second state, and the third state could be when we got the word response. So word searched state. In this state, okay, let's add the state also in these three. Well, in this word search state, we have gotten the data from the server, and this is the state that would have the response in it, and it will actually tell the UI that the word that you have requested for already got the response, and you can show the UI accordingly. So it will also extend the dictionary state. And since, as I said, it will contain the response. So what we would have inside this, we would have a list of word response. Let's name it words. And in the constructor, we can have something like this. So these are three states that we could have possibly in this application. And there may be we can make a fourth state also. It will be error state. So error state would be in the case when we make the HTTP request and we get some sort of error. Then in this case we will have this error state. So now as we have states for the qubit, we can simply write here dictionary state, and you can see it's still giving error because there is some some stuff that we need to call. So you can see we have to call the super, and inside the super actually you can remove this. Inside the super you have to have the default or the initial state given. So the initial state of the application, you can guess. It's very simple. The initial state would be word searching state. No, because the user would not actually search for the word when the application opens. So definitely when the application opens, so it should show this form because user hasn't searched for any word. So the initial state would be no word search state. So that's great. Also, we need to have the reference of word repository in this qubit. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a final word repository, and then I'm gonna take it from the constructor. That's great. So let's format it. And another thing that we would have, because we have this text field, so we need to get the text from it. So we need to associate a controller with it actually. So it inside the qubit we can make a text editing controller. So let's make it query controller, and it will be text editing controller. And now we are going to create a function, or actually a feature, get word searched. So the UI will call this feature, and this feature will actually get the data from the repository, and it will actually emit or generates a new state, and it will return to the UI, and so UI can re-render itself according to the new state. So this is how it will work. So let's create a feature get word search, and let's have async since we are going to use a wait inside it. So the first thing that will happen when this feature will call, so this is actually, you can imagine this, this is an event. So this event, whenever this event will occur, it means the first thing that is gonna happen is you are going to emit a new state. You are going to return a new state that is word searching state. Because whenever this get word search will be called, so it means user has pressed this search and he has provided the query also. So the very first thing that you have to do, you have to show the loader. So you have to your application will be in the state of searching. So that is why you have to emit. The emit means you have to, this is how you release, or this is how you emit the new state and provide to the UI. Now the second thing that you have to do, you have to contact the repository for the data you wanted. So what you can do, you can simply call final words, and inside the repository there's a feature get words from dictionary, so it actually returns the list of word response. So as it's a feature, you have to use a wait with it. And in the query parameter, you can simply, because we have the reference of query controller, you can simply get the text from it by using query controller.text. This is it. And there are two possibilities. The words can be null. So in case it's null, we can emit the error state. However, if it is not null, we can return the word searched state. And in here inside it we can pass the words. That's great. And since this repository get words from dictionary can also throw the exception, so what we can do, we can simply wrap this whole code in try and catch. And in case we get any exception, simply we can first print it on the console, or we can also show it on the snack bar, and maybe we are going to do that also. And also we can emit the error state. Or what we can do simply, inside the error state we can have the error message. And rather than showing the progress bar, we can simply, rather than showing the snack bar, we can simply have the error message on the screen. So in the case of when a word are null, so there may be the any case, I'm not sure what. So, or we can simply say there is some issue, and in case we get exception, so we can simply pass the exception message inside the error state. So this looks good, and I think we have done with the block, and now we can integrate it with the UI, and then we can use it with the UI. Now to integrate the block with the UI, the first thing that you have to do is you have to inject the qubit or the block to the tree where you want to access the block. So as I just want to access the block inside the home screen, because we just have to have the reference of block in the home screen, because in the list screen we can simply just pass the list, and in the detail we can simply just pass a single word. So there's no need to have block in the other screens. So what I can do inside the main, before we actually use this home screen, I can simply wrap this widget in block provider. So the main reason of using block provider, or the main benefit of using block provider, it actually provides the instance of the block in the child. So you can simply in the child access the reference or the instance of the block that you have passed in the block provider. So this is how you have to do it. In the child you have to provide the home screen, and then you have the create. Here we have to pass the context, and then we can simply create the instance of dictionary qubit, and inside it we have to provide the instance of word repository. So just let's create word repository. That's good. And now we can easily access this dictionary qubit inside the home screen. So now we will see how we can access it, and how we can then access the text field controller, text editing controller, and we can associate with it. So for accessing, what you have to do first, you first have to import Flutter_Bloc. That's great. And now there are several ways to access the reference of block. The one which I'm using is final qubit equals to, you can use context, and inside the context you can have watch. So I'm not getting it because let's give it a type. Now we should be able to get watch. Okay, that's good. And you have to provide here the type of the qubit, so it's dictionary qubit. Now what happens when you call this watch? So it actually provides you the instance of the qubit, and it also do some magic. the magic is it also render the UI whenever there is new state. So whenever there is new state emit, it actually rebuilds the whole screen. So whenever there will be image of say searching state, so you don't have to do anything, you just have to handle in the case of current state, you have to show some specific UI, you just have to handle this sort of things. However, block will itself re-render the UI. You don't have to call like set state, you don't need to have some builder that will listen to a new state or anything. You just need to have this line in your code. And now simply, in order to associate first, because we first need to associate the controller so that it actually gets the text from it. So you can simply call qubit.queryController. And then inside the onPress, you can simply call qubit.getWordSearched. And now, so this is only, we have associated just a controller and we have just called this a getWordSearch. We haven't yet actually handled all the states, and we haven't defined how our UI will look like in each of the states. Now let's create the UI in case of loading a state. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna minimize this thing and I'm gonna create get loading widget. It will be simply a circular progress indicator in the center. So the circular progress indicator, and we can simply wrap this thing in the center. That's great. And also let's create get error widget. In this case, it will have a text widget, and let's have a message parameter. It will have a text widget with a message, and we can simply wrap this thing also in the center. Okay, that's great. And now how we will actually manage the UI, how we will compare the current state, and how we will show the UI accordingly. So firstly, for this purpose, we first need to get the reference of the qubit, because we haven't right now have the reference of qubit inside this build. Let's define the type dictionary qubit, and as we have use here watch, so it will rebuild the UI or rebuild this build method. So first of all, what we can do, we can simply get the current state from the qubit. So to get the current state, you simply have to call qubit.state. So if the current state type will be equals to, you can call you can use is for this purpose. If it is word searching state, then in this case we will show get loading widget. However, if the qubit dot current state is a word or its error state maybe, so in this case we will simply show get error widget with the error message. So you can get the error message qubit dot state. Inside it you should have okay, we will right now, we're just making this some error. Okay, so this is the error state, and now we will see if the qubit dot current state is equals to, is no word search state, Then in this case we will show the get dictionary form widget. However, if there is some other state, then we can simply show an empty container. You may be wondering why we didn't handle the UI for the word searched state, because in that case we are not going to update this page, but rather we are going to take the user to the list screen, to the other screen. So we are not going to handle the UI in that case in the same screen. So this is how it should be, and it's giving some error. So there should be a colon instead of the question mark. So this is good. So if I refresh the application, it should show me this form widget. Maybe I can close the application and then reopen it, because the current state or the initial state is actually no word search state. So it should show me this get dictionary form widget. And meanwhile, what I'm doing actually, I'm going inside the qubit. So you can see it's showing me the correct state of the application. So just to make sure we are actually, oh, it should be inside the emit. Just to make sure we are getting the data or not, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna return, or I'm gonna print this response into the console so that I can see if I'm getting this case, the null case, or if I'm getting the data case. So I think we can test the application. So this will actually print the data on the console. It will not take us to the list screen because we haven't yet in the application have the list screen, but we will surely going to make it. So let's restart the application, and let's open the console so that we can see the progress. Okay, so the application restarted. Let's search for a word, maybe like good. So when I will click on this, it will call this future, and it will first return or emit actually a word searching state. So in that case we have handled it, and we are showing the circular progress indicator in the center. So it should show us, when I hit on this, it should show us the circular progress indicator in the center. Then it will get the data from the repository, and it will print on the console. And in case we get exception, it will have the error state. So let's click on this. You can see when I click on this, it's showing me the progress indicator, and it also returned the instance of word response. It means we are getting the response. But you can see that after we have successfully searched the word, it should show us the form again. It should take us to the list screen. We are going to make it. However, this screen should show the previous state, because the word is searched, and now we are going to create a new session. So we can simply, again, we can call no word search state in this case. So when we will receive this state in the UI, we already have taken user to the list screen, but the order screen should have the reset state actually, or it should be no word search state, so that when user click back from the list screen, he should not see this empty screen, but rather he can see the no word search state. So I hope you are getting this point. If not, you can simply see what I'm saying. When I refresh it, and if I search again some word like word, and you can see it's showing a progress indicator, and it returns the response. And on this response we would have taken user to the list screen, but you can see this screen now reset it to the previous screen, to the previous state or the default initial state. So that's what I was saying. So that's great, it means it's working. So we just need to have the list screen now so that we can show the actually response in the correct way, or we can show the data incorrect way. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna creating a list screen inside the list, and it will be a simple stateless widget because it will not have some fancy stuff. It will just show the list. So let's name it list screen, and let's import material.dart. And also inside this list screen we would have a list of word response, not the word repository, word response. Let's say it's words, and it will have a scaffold. Okay, we have to make a constructor also. Let's have a scaffold, and in the body we will have a list view dot separated. The item count would be words dot length. The separator builder will be, first we need to have context and index, and the separator builder will be divider with color that will be a little darker because we are using dark background color in it. And the item builder would have a list style in it. And inside the list style we can simply call words. Sorry, first we need to have child or title property, and in the title we can show text, and you can get the text from words. To get the current instance you can call words index. Let's reformat it. That looks good. And inside it you have word, that's just a string, so you can show this a string. And also we need to have a dark background since we are using dark theme. Maybe the dark theme, it's not actually a dark theme. Okay, so we can use colors dot blue gray, and this is 900. So whenever we will receive the state, which is actually the word search state, what we will do, we will take user to the list screen. So let's see how we will do this. So what we can do, whenever we have to listen for the state, and we don't have to render the UI, however we have to take we have to perform some action like navigation, like showing a snack bar or something like this. Not updating the UI, but you have to take some action on the new state you receive or any state you receive. So what you can do, you can use block listener in this case. So what we can do, we can simply wrap this whole content in the block listener, and in the listener you actually have a context, and you actually have a instance of your state, the new state that you have received. So you can actually use this state and you can compare it with the state you actually want to take action on, and then you can perform some action. So this is how it works. But the second thing is you have to tell which block you are going to use. So we are going to use this dictionary block, which is qubit. So this is how you have to do this. And then what we can do, simply we can see if the state or the new state we receive is word search state. So if that's the case, and also we will see, maybe we don't have to do this, but still, if state dot words is not null, so you have to check both, that first the state should be word search state, and then the state should contain words that's not null, then in this case you have to take user to the list screen, and in the builder you have context, and then after it you have list screen. Maybe we should format it. And in the list screen you have to pass state.words. Isn't defined for the type. Okay, you have to import this. That's great. Let's format it. That looks good. So now if I run the application again, let's close the application and let's reopen it. Since we have added the list screen, so it should now, in the case of successful API requests, it should take user to the list screen, and it should show the list of all the words that's available in the result based on the user search query. So if I search for a word, or like what we can do, we can search for best. So if I click on search, it should first show me the loading, and it should take me to the list screen. So you can see it's actually taking me to the list screen. However, we have a use black text, and since it's a black background, so it's not really visible. So let's change some things, like we can style this and we can give some color. Okay, so let's refresh it. So now you should be able to see the word, and you can also do some indexing stuff, like you can simply concatenate the index value. So this is how it will look. That's great. So in this case we are actually getting only one word, so that's why it's showing one word. However, in case we accept we get many words, so it will definitely show many words. Now what we have to do, we have to on pressing this button, we have to take user to the detail screen, and we have to pass the word response, only that word response that is tapped or that is clicked. So we have to pass that word response object to the detail screen, and then the detail screen will fetch the information from the object and will show on the UI. So actually we have done with all the thing, but still just to ensure you that it's actually working. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a detail screen also. So it will also be a stateless widget with detail screen, and it will have a final word response reference or the object, and let's import material dot. That looks good. So actually this is the type. We also need to have a name with it. That's good. So at first we would have a scaffold with the background color dark blue gray, and just to save the time, because it just what information you want to show and just a simple UI. So what I have done, I have pre-coded some stuff. So if I can really explain this, so this is just simple container with the column widget, and at first I have showed the word in little bigger size, so that the user can know which word he is actually exploring. And then as I said you, the words can have different meanings, several meanings. That is why I have use here the list view, and then inside the list view I have a column widget, and in the column widget I first show the part of the speech, and then a single word or the single meaning can have multiple definitions and the multiple sentences. So that is why I have used here again a list view. This is the nested list view. Inside it I have showed all the meanings and all the definitions. So these are all the things that I have showed. So you actually get the word response object, and you have a lot of information like phonetics and all the stuff. So you can show whatever information you want to show. So now what we have to do inside the list style, we need to have on tap so that we can define the navigation code. And on tapping the individual item, we can use navigator.push. We can call material.page root. And here we have a builder, and we can call detail screen, and we can simply pass the current word response. So you can do it something like this. Oh, what happens? So let's format it. So this is how you can do. So that looks all good. So let's maybe we can close the application and we can reopen it. There are still a lot of things that you can improve in this application. The main target of this video was not actually to make a complete product. The main target was to let you know how you can use block and how you can make the HTTP requests, how you can combine them to make some meaningful thing. You can definitely improve UI, you can definitely improve the user experience. You can there are a lot of things that you can really improve. So but I have just given you the basic idea, and then you can move it, you can take it to the further, you can take it to the next level. You can make a complete application. You can obviously you can publish it on the Play Store, and you would have a portfolio. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna search for a word we can search easy, because it's a part of easy approach. And then if I click on search, you can see it is taking me to this to list screen. So if I click on this, so you can see it's showing me the word easy and saying that it's a adverb, and the definition without difficulty on effort, and the sentence is null. It's not it does not have any sentence. In case of null, you can handle it, and you can remove the sentence line from the UI and detail screen. So this is how it's actually looking. So I think this is it from this video. Also we can also make some request that is not a word, a proper word, like say something some random stuff, and if I search on it, you can see it's saying some error. So it's actually in black, but it's actually showing the error state. So you can improve a lot. You can and I want you to improve this thing and publish it on Play Store or an App Store, so that whenever someone asks you if you have some portfolio or you want to show something, then you can obviously show this, and that would really help you getting new jobs. And when I actually create my channel, it really helped me a lot, because whenever someone come to me and I want some job, I don't have to prove anything to him. I just give the reference of my channel. I just give the reference of the GitHub repositories that I have for you guys, and that works. So the portfolio really matters. So as you already know, action speaks louder than word. So this is it from this video. In the next video we will see some new thing. So if you like the video, please give a big thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed the channel, please, because I need your support, please subscribe the channel and share the videos with those who want to learn Flutter with easy approach. So thank you for watching.